The Minecraft 1.20 update just came out, and while I'm not starting my series for it until the Create mod comes out too, I want to do something, so today I'm doing a full tier list of every feature in the update, plus my thoughts on them. We'll start up here with S for super, A for awesome, B for below A, C for kinda cool, D for definitely a feature, and F for, you guessed it, failure. So the first feature is Cherry Grove Biomes. There's a reason I decided to do this video here. I absolutely love this place. The bright pink trees with these particles coming off of them are absolutely beautiful. Plus the super great watercolor you get in this biome. I mean, just look at that amazing blue. Not to mention the ground covering with all these pink petals is just great. But there are two issues. Firstly, when you bone meal the ground, you do not get that amazing ground cover. You mostly get grass, which is so annoying. And secondly, the trees. Mojang, just fix it. It's that easy. Please. Despite those issues though, it is an easy S tier for me. I absolutely love this biome. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's just so pretty, but of course it's not just a biome, it comes with a brand new wood type too, which I have laid all of it out here. It's pretty basic, it's just pink wood, but the doors have this cute little pattern on them with a little knocker in the middle, and I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it's pink, so it's a whole new wood color, which is something I'm all for, which is why, despite this just being a new wood, I'm putting it in A tier. I really like just the variation, which is why I also really like the other wood type this update adds, bamboo. It's got all the classics in a beautiful yellow with this little bamboo texturing on it. Plus, it's got 3 new blocks, the mosaics, which look absolutely great. It's just this, but a slightly different pattern. And honestly, because of the mosaics and the raft, this one is even better than the cherry wood type and is going in S tier. I love this wood and I can see so much potential for it. Part of that potential is in the hanging signs that are up next. I think these things look absolutely amazing. We've got the bamboo one and cherry has one too, and they have a couple different variations. They can hang like this where they can actually freestand, which I think is really weird, but kind of cool. And you can hang them off of each other to get 2 chains like this. That's also what you get if you hang them off of a block, and if you hang them off of a signpost or shift click on another sign, you get this other chain formation, and I think both of them look absolutely amazing. You could use this for like market stalls, and I'm sure a ton of other stuff that I'm not thinking of, but I love this feature and it is an easy A tier. But I think I'm being a little bit too positive, so let's move on to a feature that I don't like as much in Archaeology. Now, I should preface that I'm starting with a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth here, because we were promised this feature 2 full updates ago and they're just now delivering, but I'm going to try and focus on the features themselves and not that, because that will obviously give me a little bit of a negative bias. So Archaeology generally focuses around suspicious sand and suspicious gravel. This is where you get the artifacts. But I'm not actually going to include it on my tier list, but I am going to include all the things you get from it, like these sherds, and the places where you find it, which are called trail ruins. They can also be found in other places like desert temples, but the main one is here. So these things are underground tunnels filled with gravel. And at first I was like, oh, cool new structure to explore, and it has some unique loot to go and get. But then I realized the exploring is really just hollowing out the entire thing of gravel while accidentally mining suspicious gravel most likely and losing the items in it, which I kind of have a problem with. It just seems like it's going to be really boring, and once it's all hollowed out, the relic ruin itself isn't even that interesting. So this feature is going down in D tier for me. It's definitely a feature, but it could definitely use some work. However, the stuff you get from suspicious sand is a lot better than the place you find it. The thing I already mentioned are these sherds, which are really cool and can make these pots, which I think are pretty good. I think they are also lacking a little bit because I feel like you should be able to put color on them. Most pottery has glaze, and these are completely brown and boring, but there is a ton of customization with these different icons on them, and there are a ton of different options that you can get, and all of these are from different sources of suspicious sand and suspicious gravel, and overall I think it's a pretty solid feature, and I'm going to give it C tier. The only reason it's so low is I really think it's a missed opportunity that you can't can't color these, it would add so much vibrance to the game, and I think it would look really cool. But the other thing you can get from Suspicious Sand, amongst other sources, is probably the best feature in this update, and that is armor trims. I've set up all of them down here, and they are absolutely amazing. It's a purely aesthetic feature for armor, but it allows for so much customization. And of course, there are more colors than purple. I just really like this color combination, so it's the one that I've done. But there are 16 in total. I've set them all up here, and while a lot of them are pretty similar and don't look too unique, I think there's still enough that you could definitely make your own armor that looks like no one else's, which is a feature that I am all for. This is definitely one of the best features, if not the best, in the update, and it's easily an S tier. I am so excited to mess around with this. It's so much creativity. But along with armor trims comes another thing for armor, and that is a new way to upgrade diamond to netherite. Instead of just a diamond piece and a netherite ingot, you now need a netherite upgrade smithing template, and then you can get your netherite armor. And part of this feature I really like. You can only find these in bastions, which I think is great incentive to go and explore them, because it's actually the only unique loot, at least that I can think of, that is in bastions, which I think is really cool. Gives you more incentive to explore one of my favorite structures. But that's about where the positives end, because once you find one of these in a bastion, you're obviously going to want more. And if you want to craft more, you are going to need 7 diamonds each, which in my opinion just adds more pointless grinding to the netherite upgrade process. You already have to spend probably hours mining for netherite to get enough to upgrade everything you want, and now you have to spend even more time to get the diamonds for it. So with that kind of taken into consideration, I honestly think this is only C tier. It's kinda cool that it's a much better way to do it, and it's cool that you only find it in bastions, but why add more grinding to already one of the most grindiest things in the entire game? Okay, armor detour aside and back to archaeology, because I didn't cover a couple things. Another thing you can get from Suspicious Sand, specifically in Trail Ruins, is this brand new music disc, which I think sounds absolutely amazing. I can definitely see myself using it in the background of time lapses, but most of all, I'm really happy that they're just continuing to add music to the game with every single update, because I like how it sounds. Music is great, and this music disc is no exception. I think this song sounds great, and literally just because I'm glad they're adding more and more music discs, I'm giving it B tier. I would put it higher, but it is just a music disc. Continuing on with the archaeology is the mob vote mob, the Sniffer, and this thing is gigantic, and I really like it. I voted for this thing, and personally, I think I got what I voted for. Sniffer itself is a pretty basic mob. He'll dig around for seeds, which is a behavior he's probably not going to do because he's sitting on some concrete, and you have to hatch him out of eggs that you find underwater, which I think is a really unique way to actually get a mob. I'm realizing this fence probably isn't going to contain him very well, but the real thing we like about the Sniffer is the plants he provides. So the Sniffer itself is about B tier. It's a pretty cool mob, and I'm glad they added it, but the plants are the real star. Of the plants, there are 2, and we'll start with torch flowers. These are the 4 stages of growth, or actually 3, and then how it looks on Podzol. You have to grow them in farmland, but then after that you can break them off the farmland and place them wherever you want. And they look kind of bad, and also they're called torch flowers and they don't emit light, which I personally think is horrible, and I know that's a super common complaint, but I kinda hate them. They're really hard to get, they don't do anything, and they don't even look that good in my opinion. I can see myself using them in a garden maybe, but it'd have to be like a fancy magical garden because they look super strange, and because of that, I'm putting them all the way down in F tier. They need to emit light. If they did, I would honestly put them way higher, but because they don't, and they don't even follow their own namesake, they're going down towards the bottom. But these ones, on the other hand, the pitcher plants, are totally not, but also totally are a reference to Stardew Valley, as they look exactly like the ancient fruit in that game, and that is my favorite game, so I'm putting these ones all the way up in A tier, which maybe they don't deserve and maybe I'm a little biased, but that's where it's going. Which brings us to the end of the archaeology features, but while we're still mildly on the topic of mobs, camels. I think they're pretty cool. You can seat 2 people on one of these things, which I think is a much needed feature, and they are quite fast. The only problem I have with these is that they only spawn in desert villages when the world generates, which I don't really see the point in. I feel like they should just spawn in deserts naturally, because deserts are already so empty, so why not add some more stuff to them? But other than that, they are a pretty cool mob, and they somehow allow you to get 4 people in one minecart. I don't really know how to do it, but I know it's possible. But because of the spawning thing, I'm putting them in C for camel. And now on to the last even mildly mob-related feature, which is head noises. Specifically, the piglin head got added, and now if you put a head of a mob on top of a note block, it makes fun noises from that mob, like this, or a zombie noise, or my favorite, a creeper noise, which I can see this being used for so many traps. You can of course do the Ender Dragon ones as well, but like just imagine you set up some like Skulk sensor to hear someone, you activate one of these, that will scare anyone because there is no way to know whether or not it's a real creeper. So I think this is absolutely amazing, and it's going in B tier only because its only real potential is for traps, but you know, it's still pretty cool. Speaking of traps, Skulk sensors have gotten a bit of an update. This is the calibrated Skulk sensor, and what it can do is when you input a redstone signal, like I am right now, into the purple side, it will only hear a specific frequency. Right now it's tuned to 15, which is why walking around doesn't activate it, but if I were to like die or get exploded, it would. If I turn this off, it can now do any frequency and will hear me step, which I think this is a really cool feature. It means you can make some sort of detection thing that only reacts to specific things. For instance, a player walking around, as opposed to just anything else like a mob walking around. I don't actually know if those are different things, but I think it allows for more specific traps. However, it's actually a feature we could already do with comparators, so I don't think that is all that useful. But the Skulk sensors themselves are, because a calibrated Skulk sensor has twice the recognition range and a third the cooldown time as a normal one. And if you don't know what cooldown time is, the time that it's in this like lit up space is a third less than what a normal Skulk sensor is, which means it can hear stuff much more often, and because of that, I'm putting it in B tier. But that's not the only update to Skulk sensors we have. We also got vibration resonance, which is if you place a block of amethyst next to a Skulk sensor, I don't actually know if it has to be calibrated or not, and then make a noise, it will ring the amethyst. You can hear that ding ding going on, and what that does is it sends out another signal that a new Skulk sensor can pick up on. I don't know if that one's too far away, but if we do this, it will then activate that one too, because this one vibrated even if the original sound was out of range. And the cool thing about this is it maintains the signal strength of that sound, so you can send a signal at a specific frequency. In fact, you could even send several signals through the same line at different frequencies, which I think is pretty cool, even if it's not actually that useful, because I can't think of a single instance that I would really need to do that, other than like maybe a combination lock where the combination is really far away from the door. But other than that, I don't think it's that useful, so it's going to go down in C tier. And now we're down to the last couple of features that don't really have anything to do with the rest of the update, so I don't have any clever transition, but this one is Chiseled bookshelves. This is a feature I really actually quite like. It's a bookshelf that you can store your books in, and they actually kind of show up on it, and you can interact with each slot differently, which I think is super cool. And of course, if I wasn't in creative mode, those would actually stick, and then you can take them back out again. I think this is a super cool feature, one, for storing books, and also for redstone purposes. I'm not really smart enough to come up with anything to do with it, but you could use it as a combination lock, I guess, although my brain's just kind of stuck on that right now. And I think it's pretty cool because you can get a redstone output from it telling you which slot you just interacted with. So you could definitely make some redstone systems with it, and I think it's a pretty good feature, so I'm going to put it up in A tier. And now we're down to the last feature, and you might be wondering what it is because I've kind of covered all of the actual features, and this one isn't really a feature, it's more of a bug fix, universal dyeing. This is something that I've been wanting to be in the game for ages, so much so that I play with a data pack that lets me do it. And that is pretty much you can take any colored block like lime terracotta and dye it into orange terracotta, which didn't used to be a thing. And it's actually still not. They added this feature, but only for wool, carpet, and beds. Why not like glass and concrete and terracotta? It's so dumb. This feature would be S tier for me if it worked on everything, but because it's so limited, it's dropping down to the very bottom. It still doesn't fix the problem, so it is a failure. And that is my tier list for 1.20, every single feature in its place. Although I did group some together, I think this is a pretty comprehensive one, and I want you guys to let me know if you agree, disagree, whatever your thoughts are down in the comments. But before I go, I want to go over my general thoughts on this update, because I think it actually turned out pretty good, and Minecraft has been misstepping with its updates recently, like the Wild update and 1.17 just kind of being weird and small, but this one I think they've really turned it around. They added a ton of features, a lot of which I really like, especially this new biome, and I only really have one qualm with this update, which is that none of the features really feel like they stick together. It's called Tales and Trails, and all of them can kind of technically be put into that title, but they don't really have a super cohesive theme. I mean, compared to updates like the Caves and Cliffs updates, where they pretty much purely updated Caves and Cliffs, or the Villager update, or the Aquatic one, all of the super good previous updates have had a really good theme, and I really wish they had done this with this one too, but honestly, I'm just happy to have this many new additions, so I would give this update as a whole probably somewhere around a C tier. There's definitely a lot of better ones, but there's certainly worse ones like the Wild update, so I'm happy to have it. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.